Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Sanjay Moitharan, a senior at Washington High School, and me along with my friend Maggie will be both of your moderators for today. So I just wanted to briefly explain about how our showcase will work today. So first thing is that once the showcase is over, you'll be able to watch your presentations and the other presentations once CLA posts these videos. And it's also important for you to make sure that you have the link that Anthony that was sent earlier. Maggie, if you can send that in the chat, because that's your program guide and it'll be telling you where you're going to be going for today. Like you're not, because once we finish with our morning session, we're gonna have a short break and then you're gonna most likely have to go to a different room where you'll be talking about your organization in general. I also just wanted to emphasize that for the presentations, we're going to be very strict on time. Each group is going to have exactly 15 minutes to present. And this 15 minutes will encompass both your speaking time as well as your Q&A. So in order to remind you about your time, I'm going to be giving you hand signals along the way. So this will be 5 minutes, 3 minutes. And then once I get to the 1 minute mark, I'll just unmute myself and let you know, just so you guys can say your closing remarks and we can move on to the next presenter. So the main reason for this is that we just want to stay on track and make sure that everyone is given an even amount of time. So if you guys haven't already, please change your name to, and please rename yourself to include the organization that you guys are representing. And yep, that's about it for introductory remarks. So it's my pleasure to be able to introduce our very first student project, and that would be APICCO with their project OCRF. So Maggie, if you could spotlight all of the APICCO members as well as give them codes.
Do I have everyone, just to double check?
I'm not sure if I'm pinned yet or Ariana, but there's 5 of us total.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
All right, should we just go ahead and start sharing the screen?
Yep, go for it.
All right, my name is Kaya, by the way. I'll be sharing the screen, but we'll introduce ourselves in these slides. Can everybody let me know if you all can see the screen right now?
Looks good.
Awesome. All right, we'll get started.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We, the APICCO 2021 interns, would like to introduce to you our legislative project, the APICCO Oregon Climate Response Fund, otherwise known as OCRF. Now to Kendall.
APICCO stands for Asian and Pacific Islander Community Coalition of Oregon. Our executive director is Mr. Kian Chung, and our board chair is Ms. Christine Chen Bryan. Up next will be Stephanie to discuss who we are.
Our team is comprised of 5 cohort members, 3 of which you see on the screen. We have Kendall, who interned for the Office of Representative Andrea Valderrama, Ariana, who interned for Senate Majority Leader Rob Wagner, and me, Stephanie, and I interned under Representative Con Fan. And on the following slide, you will see Kaya and Shubangi. Kaya interned under Senator Casey Jama, and Shubangi interned for Speaker of the House, Tina Kotek. And now I'll pass it on to Kaya.
All right, so this is our vision statement for our project. It's to provide a path to financial resilience for POC, or people of color small businesses in Oregon. We'll be expanding on this in more detail in the next few slides. But before we continue, I just want to do some interactive stuff with y'all real quick, get a vibe of the room. So if anybody could put in the chat for me, just one simple number on a scale of 1 to 5, how familiar are you with small businesses, specifically businesses of color in Oregon? 1, not at all. I don't know anything about the situation of what's going on. And 5 being, I'm very familiar. Maybe I know people in this area. We just want to see how much people know about this before we continue. So I'll give you a second for that. And then thank you so much for all your responses. I will pass it on to Shibangi.
Yeah, so let's provide some background for the people who are currently in year like the 1 to 3. So from February to April 2020, the National Bureau of Economic Research found that Shivani, I don't know if it's just me, but it's kind of hard to hear. Okay. Is it a little better now or?
Try taking out your earphones. I know that sometimes
Is this any better?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, sorry about that. So from February to April 2020, the National Bureau of Economic Research found that the number of Asian-owned small businesses in America dropped by 26%, and that immigrant-owned businesses dropped by 36%, especially with groups like POC-owned businesses, showing that they're exposed to a higher risk of loss. Along with this, federally issued PPP loans took a week longer to be approved in majority Asian neighborhoods when compared to majority white neighborhoods, and this trend is further exaggerated in majority Black and Latino neighborhoods. And along with this, extreme changes in weather have shown to cost America $630 billion a year, approximately 3.5% of our GDP. And with small businesses being extremely susceptible to changes in the market, it's clear who faces the brunt of that damage. So what can we do about this? That's where the idea of the OCRF came around. The OCRF would be a potential government fund that would financially support Oregon small businesses by providing money and other necessary resources in times of unforeseeable disaster. And more about how this works, we'll go to Ari.
We recognized in our Oregon communities a lack of financial resiliency plans, continuing issues of climate change, COVID-19, and POC businesses being more financially vulnerable, and saw that we had a desperate call from Oregonians for financial support and for access and prioritization of small POC businesses, specifically in conversations about government-funded programs. As both Oregonians and all women of color, we are seeking to provide Oregon small businesses with a climate response fund, targeted specifically towards not only people of color, but particularly API-owned businesses. Now I'll pass it on to Kaya.
All right, thank you, Ari. So we also want to explain that this is an ongoing project. It's not just for the CLA project, but for years to come. So we've also split up long-term goals between the before 2020 Oregon longer legislative session and afterwards. We're hoping to continue to survey these small businesses even after the project or the CLA showcase to assess financial needs of these small businesses of color, assemble a group of AAPI businesses who are willing to sign onto our eventual proposal we'll create, contact local leaders, lobbyists, and business groups, as well as actually drafting a policy proposal that will be brought over, as you see in number 5, brought to implementation for the Oregon legislative session. So we want this proposal done, we want people to support it, and also once that lobby fund is created, check in monthly with senators and legislators after the fact, pretty much to ensure that the bill doesn't die in committee and that it's going to be a continuous process of support. So between 2023, before and after. So from here, I will pass it on to Kendall.
So our process throughout the summer began in week 1 when we all met each other at the Land Sioux Garden internship kickoff. Additionally, we drafted our vision statement and our website. In week 2, we finalized our vision statement. And in week 3, we began a contact list for organizations we wanted to reach out to gather information for our project. In week 4, we began drafting video ideas. And in week 5, our final week, we finalized and shared the survey to the public. We published our website and created social media accounts and an email for the APICCO 2021 interns. Next up will be Shibangi with our results.
So again, we'd really like to drill in that the result of this would be a bill that would be passed by the Oregon legislative branch that would create a fund to financially support Oregon small businesses through state funding in times of unforeseeable disaster. And another question we have for y'all to put in the chat is, do you personally know any small businesses who have been impacted by unforeseeable disaster? And this could be within Oregon or outside of Oregon, and it could be COVID or climate or really anything related. But yeah, just answer in the chat. And now I'll hand it off to Steph.
Beyond APICCO and the summer internship, we will continue to maintain contact through bi-monthly check-ins with our intern cohort members, as well as sending reminders and progress updates to Mr. Kian Truong and Ms. Christine Chin Ryan as we continue to finalize our steps in preparation for the 2023 Oregon State Legislature. And now I will hand it back to Kaya, who will talk a little bit more about our website.
Yes, so everybody's probably wondering, this is a lot of information. Where am I going to find all this? We actually created a separate website, which I'll show you really quickly, but I think Stephanie is also going to put a link to it in the chat itself. So if you would like to follow along with us, go ahead, or you can watch the screen. We created a site that just has all our information that we just stated, statistics and things like that. So our homepage has our vision on there. You can click all the Learn More tabs to go to each of the specific parts of it. We've also included our project details, the core values of our group, as well as full bios for each of the members within APICCO and their positions, and our Instagram page that we are currently working to continue with our advocacy on. So we have different slides for our project, different ones for who we are, and our regular homepage. So please go there if you would like to see more updates. It is still, as I was saying earlier, a work in progress, an ongoing project. So we'll continue to upload on there. So please stay tuned. And with that, I will pass it on to Shubhangi for another link that we'll be talking about.
Yes, so since this is a piece of legislation, we want to make sure that we're delivering what the businesses need. And in order to figure out what the businesses need, we've created a survey for Oregon small businesses, specifically POC small business owners, to fill out, to tell us what they need the most from the government and from this fund. So with this feedback, we're going to develop we've begun developing a policy proposal that's going to involve all of the things that these businesses specifically need to make sure that they can continue to flourish as time goes on, regardless of times of unforeseeable disaster. And I'll pass it back to Ari to close off for us.
We would like to give special thanks to Mr. Trung, Ms. Chin Ryan, Mr. Lay, Ms. Sokantoy Donsanapit, and the PICO board chairs, but especially all of you, our audience, for not only participating in today's event, but taking part in our project process. Thank you.
All right, that is the end of our presentation, but we wanted to show y'all a picture of us. We got to meet together one time for a welcoming ceremony of our internship program. And we'd also like to pass it on to the contact slide.
Yeah, so as previously mentioned, this is just for anybody who maybe wants to take a screenshot. That'll be our Instagram handle, our email if you have any further questions or concerns, and our website.
I would now like to open up the floor for any questions or comments that anybody of you in the audience has. Yeah, go ahead and either unmute or put the question in the chat and we will answer them for you.
Okay, so I have a question from the audience. It is, who and what organizations will be working with you in the future on the project?
I can take this question. So we are still expanding our network for organizations that we'll work with in the future. But as of right now, we are currently working with the PICO team, of course, but also Business Oregon, who is in charge of all businesses within Oregon and regulations and things like that. Thank you for your question, by the way.
I think there's another question in the chat. It says, how will you be implementing future lobbying efforts?
Yes, I can take this one. So basically, our hopes are that we can build a coalition of businesses and organizations that advocate for POC businesses to help lobby on the Capitol. Along with this, we all have connections within the Capitol itself that we hope to employ, and we've already begun doing that by having our offices look at policy proposals, and hopefully one of our offices can help sponsor or co-sponsor the bill when it hits the House floor in 2023, hopefully. Thank you for the question.
I would also like to add that throughout this process, we will be collecting testimonies from small business owners as well that will also be helpful in our lobbying efforts. Thank you again for the question.
Personally, I just wanted to ask, where did you get the idea from to take action in this specific idea? Because like all of you guys are like, I think you only met each other like once at that specific internship. Why was this the specific issue that all of you agreed needed to be tackled?
Sorry, I can take this again if nobody else wants to. But during our first meeting, Oregon was hit with a 106-degree heat wave, and all of us saw that the businesses which were specifically affected were particularly Middle Eastern and other Asian restaurants within the Portland and greater area. So we had the idea from that specific extreme disaster case to give funding to businesses so they wouldn't have to both endanger their employees, but also put their business through ruin just because they wanted to make another day's buck, you know? Also, thank you again for the question.
And also just to quickly add on to that, we were also thinking about the blackouts that happened, not like last winter. So just thinking about how businesses had to go through that along with COVID made us realize that there is a serious demand for a long-term fund that can help push businesses through disasters that really aren't on them and that are beyond their control.
And I would also like to quickly add that a lot of us interns have a lot of experience, if not relatives as well, who work in those kind of businesses, you know, the restaurant industry or laboring industries. And I, for one, experienced those kind of things myself, watched other families and friends experience the hardships of not being able to shut down and having to endure that intense heat, having to stay open for long periods of time. So we all came to the conclusion that this is something that has to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so obviously this project sounds very impactful. So I just have one question. What was the hardest part about creating or working for your project?
I can try to answer this one. I think our common idea that we've had of what's the most obstacle is for us that we're all youth, right? We're all still doing these internship roles, but we're all still high school and college students right now. And so scheduling has been a very hard thing for us, as in like time differences. Right now, Ariana is in Washington, D.C., and the rest of us are in the Northwest. I'm going to go back to school in Hawaii next semester. So all of us are doing like these crazy different time differences. And also, you know, just scheduling together when we have work outside of internship and school. So I think that was one of our biggest challenges, was just trying to find the time to meet. But once we got to find the time to meet, we also tried to make sure that our work ethic was at 100%. That's why also, as Sunjay was saying with the project idea, we had to make sure it was a passionate one, something that we would want to be there for and do it 100% all effort. So I think that was the biggest challenge, but we're eventually finding ways to get through that over time. And we'd like to, as I was saying, continue the project. So we'll add in more as soon as we can. Yeah, thank you for that, Maggie.
Okay, so it seems to be 9:34 and it's about to be 9:35. So I just want to thank all of you guys for your amazing project. I mean, me personally, seeing the businesses close or down in my area is really heartbreaking, just because I know that those are like the heart of the American economy. So it's really refreshing and good to see that there's kids my age taking action in this really important issue. So now I would like to transition on to our next group. I would like to welcome I believe the project name is Energy Upgrade California, and the organization being the Center of Asian Americans for United for the Center for Asian Americans United for Self-Empowerment.
Hello, yeah, I'll just share my screen real quick. All right, is everyone able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, hi everybody. My name is Sean. I'm a current student at the George Washington University, majoring in journalism and public relations. And I was fortunate enough to give you this presentation that our cohort worked on this past summer, and with CAUSE. So CAUSE at foremost is a nonprofit, and it stands for the Center for Asian American Self-Empowerment. And it is a nonprofit that has a mission to, really advance political and civic engagement for the API community. And this could be from like voter outreaches, educating others, and like leadership development, which was part of the program CAUSE offered, the CLA program for most college undergrad students. So what our project focused on through energy conservation was mainly with Energy Upgrade California. So Energy Upgrade California is a state initiative committed to uniting California to strive toward reaching out states' energy goals. And it was created to motivate and educate California residents and small businesses about energy management. From here, what it is basically, the brief goals it has, what I explained here, what is it, and how it has its strong ties with the API communities. And these are, couple organizations that partnered up with them and also has a strong support with EUC as well. So to start off first, we think our group was researching this and how Asian Americans are environmentalists. We think that this keyword here wasn't as widely represented throughout the media and through the public. And these were just, small data numbers that how Asian Americans still took this seriously and how they had a strong support on, climate change, how they identified themselves as environmentalists and how they, also valued those policies, because we knew that conserving energy can be something that could turn out to be significant as well. And we knew that from these policies here, we knew that Asian Americans really stood up for what was right and really valued these topics as well. And these were just a couple statistic numbers that we found through our research and how, Asian Americans did play a very pivotal role. So from our EUC project, we were divided into 4 groups. And from each group, we had, 4 different, sections to work on. And the first section was community interviews. The second was blog posts. Third was short form videos and the social media campaign. So the community interviews, what we did as each group was we've interviewed a senior member in the API community, and we've interviewed them based on their perspectives, what they thought about conserving energy, what they thought about it, what experience they had, and a little brief anecdote of like their stories on energy conservation. And then from our second one, we've made a blog post about it along with our additional research and made it into not really an opinion, but really based on all the facts that we've gathered from our research and from our interview and how we kind of tied them together. And then third was short form videos we did on social media. And these were basically, TikTok, Instagram, Reel videos where we've kind of made short videos how to, save energy or maybe, relate something with energy conservation. And that was part of our social media campaign, because along with our educational posts, we've had videos that could also be engaging and interesting as well for people who might not, I guess, want to read like a whole article about it. But of course, like these short form videos can have like a short and long-term memory for them and how and what they could do to impact the community. So from here, this was from another group of ours. And these were 2 senior members from the API community. And they were basically talking about how energy conservation as a whole was something that they saw something serious about, because they needed to, preserve energy, whether it's for the house or whatever they do, because you don't realize how much energy we use in our daily basis. And both of these API members are saying how they needed to see everything into consideration and how everything was a value into their perspective. And for example, here, Dr. Richter also considers how energy conservation and how this is a privilege for him, because he comes from the Samoa and how living in a sacred land was a very sacred thing for him, and it's something that he took seriously, because in other parts of the area you don't see that, because it's from the ocean, and from where he lives is from the sacred land. So conservation as a whole was something that he took seriously and wanted other future members to take that as well. So and this was the interview that my group was doing, and this was a perspective on a Korean American pastor on energy conservation. And basically, Pastor Ted King, a Christian pastor in LA, told us that how there was, first of all, a lack of API recognition in the energy movement. And this was from language barriers, how there was access, but people just didn't know how to find it because of language, and how there wasn't enough outreach going on. Like there was enough resources, of course, but the outreach was definitely a part that was lacking on. So from here, we added a quote. There's a stake in it for us too, because we wanted to keep it for the future. And we really thought this quote was important for us because we knew that the stake was in our hands and we wanted to have a successful transition, because we didn't want energy conservation just to stop right now and say, oh, let's just do this stuff right now and not worry about it, because we know that in the future it's going to be more important. So utilizing our experiences, utilizing those steps was a very important factor that we needed to take into consideration. And these were just a couple social media posts we've done, a basic, short, informative, stat, what API voters believed in, how, energy conservation and how lighting, turning off the air was like the 4th leading energy user in the average household income. And just like a theme of switching off your light, saving our planet was just something that we wanted to kind of expand our way through social media. And this was from another group's post where they've also learned and got advices from their Asian American parents. And there were typical things, like turning off the light when no one's there, turning off the AC, using the fan, and how these were just a couple things that their parents have done and how they knew that their parents' advices were also important as well. And this was another post from another group where talking about usage and saving. And of course, these are the typical ones: adjusting your thermostat, closing your shades, and how, getting a cup of boba outside when it's hot, and especially turning off the bills, because conserving energy is of course like saving our planet and stuff, but of course like money was also a considerable factor because of how if you're just running things on like the AC, that's going to be a high amount of bills that you're going to get every month. So just basic usage and savings, what to do and what not to do and what to avoid were just a couple things that was summarized in this post. And from here, another group in our post was relating API and environmental values, because we also thought that these two values weren't as strongly connected towards the public. And we know that doing our research and coming up with these social media posts was important as well to make the audience realize what Asian Americans cared about and how we've participated and got involved. And these were a few statistics that we've seen through Pacific Islander communities and how our API community as a whole had a very strong relationship into how they wanted to really emphasize that factor into conserving energy here. And this was lastly another post on sustainability, comparing Western media and API communities, how these were ways that we've done it and have utilized it, but of course it wasn't as common throughout the public. So we really wanted to get that word out and say that these were little things that we've done and we've been taking that role as well, and how we wanted to also be part of that data and not being misrepresented. And lastly, for this group's post, they were really focusing on the theme of Banihan, which is it refers to the Filipino spirit and how, the Filipino community as example also, share this and how they also conserve energy conservation. So this were like, were additional details and supports how API members did play a huge role into it, and how, Filipinos, giving them examples, how they were, using their fans and how they've conserved energy was a critical part. And we also wanted to have many details so that we kind of have evidence on how API members took this action and how we wanted to, have a sustainable environment for the future and for the future steps that we wanted to take and tackle those topics in conserving energy. So these were just the blog posts. I just wanted to, hyperlink them here because I thought it would be interesting if you guys could read it. And of course, this was our 4 groups, and these were blog posts based on our interviews and our additional research we've done. And these were also social media posts that we've done. And I know that there's like some TikTok and other Instagram Reel videos. And this was also basically about taking steps and what actions we needed to take for energy conservation. And lastly, I wanted to end kind of how, we could be the change in the API community, because we know that, uplifting each other and also continuing this step is a very critical thing. Because even the most little things we do, like turning off the light, I said, or adjusting our thermostat for the AC and turning it off, it's a very critical thing, because we know that the future is at stake, as what Pastor King said, and we wanted to kind of continue that so that we have a successful transition for the future and for our community as a whole. And thank you for listening to our presentation.
Just quickly, before we open the floor to questions, Sean, would you like to send the links of your blog and the Instagram account link into the chat so we can all look at it?
Oh, did you ask a question or?
Oh, no, I just meant, like, if possible, could you send the Instagram links and blog links in the chat just so we can click on them and check them out?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so while you're doing that, maybe other members of the organization can answer, but what was the most significant thing you found during your research?
I think the most significant thing was how I think it was really misrepresentation, especially because like of course like researching there could be basic data of API communities and what they do, but if it was like energy conservation focus, we thought it wasn't like as I said, widely represented, and of course like it could be as neutral as it can, but of course like the representation or the voices, because I think as cliche as this might sound like, even like basic websites or other research that they've done, unless if it's not like an Asian American like organization or like a research that they've implemented, we didn't think that overall like in government websites or like what they do in the public didn't show enough data that's representing us. So we thought it was critical for us to really emphasize that and give interviews so that kind of expand our way through based on API's interest.
Yeah, definitely. And also, has this changed your view of environmental advocacy at all?
I think it really did, because now since we've kind of, and of course, like these are just like small research, but of course there's going to be so much more than that. We think that, these are small steps that we could take so that in the future, we wanted to kind of have that consistently. And we think that, current members in our API community, or they could be senior members, we know that these are positive words we get from our community, and we wanted to, kind of have a consistency and also for the future have this like word going. And we know that this word of positivity spreads quickly, and we wanted to kind of really emphasize those perspectives, because we know that little things like social media campaign could make a huge impact, especially in our generation.
Well, thank you
Is there
so
any
much.
more questions?
I don't think so. And we're about to close on the 9:50 mark. So I just want to say thank you so much, Sean, for your presentation. And I think it's fantastic that you're doing this project on an issue that's super important, as well as trying to highlight the opinions of who normally aren't represented. So thank you so much for that. And I just wanted to briefly welcome our next presenters. So it is my pleasure to introduce you all today to our next project, which is Make ATX Brave Community Nourishment.
Hello. Let me start screen sharing real quick. Okay. Could you also spotlight Katia?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we are from Brave Communities, which is a nonprofit in Austin, and I'm Phelan Wang. I use she, her pronouns, and I was in both the Summer Brave Makers program and the Brave Ambassadors program during the school year.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katia Kenshin. I use she, her pronouns, and I am also a Brave Ambassador, and I was also a part of the summer program as well. So to get us started today, let me tell you a little bit about Brave, which is all about empowering tomorrow's leaders to be brave and creating solutions for today's challenges. We are all about knocking down social and racial injustices, advocating for social and racial discourse, and doing whatever we can for polarized communities.
Well, so sorry to cut you off, Katia, but would it be possible if you could turn on your camera so we'll be able to spotlight you to everyone?
I'm actually presenting on my phone, so
okay.
I can't.
Okay, yeah, don't worry.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So our mission for Brave is to cultivate spaces for people to come together and share our opinions and differences in a very respectful and open way. and to create connections within the community. And so the acronym for BRAVE stands for Building Relationships Among Neighbors, creating awareness about injustices, amplifying voices for the unheard, and creating engagement towards change.
So one of our goals as Brave ambassadors and in Brave communities is equipping young women and non-binary people ages 14 through 18 to embrace leadership roles, tackle difficult social issues, and understand levers of change that are needed to create a more and just equitable society.
So in the Brave Ambassadors and Brave Makers programs, which are sponsored by Brave, we participate in either weekly or bi-weekly workshops where we work on group projects, creating civic engagement and community organizing. And these cohorts are made of very diverse female identifying participants to better build relationships, and we're all able to address our own biases because it's a very diverse group. We all have different opinions, and it's good to build allyship and address our biases together. And we also gain leadership experience and communication skills and affect change through a social injustice and racial equity lens.
Another goal of Brave communities is assisting individuals and families experiencing food insecurity, raising awareness of disproportionate impact of the pandemic on Black and Brown and other vulnerable populations. Our activities include providing contactless distributions of resources, including prepared meals, meal kits, and PPE supplies. Another goal is with organizations to feed vulnerable population, including unhoused, foster care youth, and refugee women. Their activity and goal of ours is creating a social and local, state, and national, global level activities.
So the impact of our community nourishment program, which Katia just discussed, is we're serving on average 500 plus meals per month during the pandemic. The ambassadors that get to work on this project are researching and presenting information about food injustices, or I guess food justices. Over 2,000 accounts are engaged with our posts on monthly average, and over almost 6,000, I guess, viewers on our Facebook posts about food justice per month. And here's our video that we made about community nourishment.
Searching for a better way to collaborate with your team?
Sorry.
Try Miro, an online whiteboard made for teamwork.
We are preparing some meal kits for families. Brave taught me a lot about the world of helping people and organizing and advocacy, spread awareness about certain issues.
We're here today on the east side to try to help little babies out with food insecurities.
As youth, it's important that we open our mouths and speak up, because a lot of times our voices go undermined, and this is the society that we're going to grow up and live in one day, so we need to make the most of it.
Today we're handing out sustainable food meal kits as well as hot food that is ready to eat right there on the spot.
Brave works to unite people and connect the community.
It connects people and teaches us how to be better people.
Great. So next.
So our impact has had 50 plus diverse young women, non-binary people mentored to be community leaders. Another one has been 500 plus in-person attendees gathered in 2018 and 19 with 3,500 plus views for our 2020 virtual event to celebrate diversity and inclusion. Another has been 2,000 stakeholders engaged in meaningful dialogue around social issues. And another is 40 plus years guided through cultural exchange workshops and discussions. And our last is 500 plus meals served per month to vulnerable populations during our pandemic.
So here's our contact page. Feel free to screenshot this, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We make infographics as well as we post about opportunities to celebrate diversity as well as volunteering in the Austin community. Any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so I feel like a lot of what you guys do seems to be centered around community mobilization. So how did you manage to like recruit a big enough group in order to like package 500 meals monthly?
So Emlyn Lee, she's actually in this Zoom meeting. She's amazing. Um, I think she has a lot of connections and she's able to get a lot of people to volunteer, and also a lot of people volunteer through the Ambassador and Brave Maker programs. And if she has anything else she wants to add to that.
Hi, ladies, you did a great job. I'm sorry, the question was how do we recruit or how do we package it? So we work with a lot of partners and then, work with grassroots community leaders. So we reach out to like partners as far as the food suppliers and then grassroots that are addressing or contacting the vulnerable populations. So right now we're doing a weekly food distributions with low income apartment complexes. So they may have like a food pantry at their apartment complexes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I think another thing that I just want to ask, which I asked the first group as well, is like, what was your motivation to do this specific initiative over something else?
I think, well, personally for me, I got into this specific initiative through the Brave Ambassador program. So it was led by Emlyn, but I think we wanted to do something that was more than just like words. We wanted to make like an actual physical impact within our community. And like once you start small, you can always grow bigger. So I think that was at least some of the reason why.
Hopping off of what Phelan said, it's definitely an amazing opportunity when we go out polarized communities to feed, give them prepared meals, and just bring them food and things they can use, especially during the cold times. Last year, well, it really wasn't last year, it was a couple months ago, I'd say, when we had one out and we had gave out prepared meals. It was an amazing feeling, just the joy on their face in that time. um just everything that we do, it makes such a big impact, and it's an honor to be here. I don't understand why anyone would want to do the work
I actually have a question. So, what advice would you give to people who are looking at a problem and they're not really sure how to address it or work for it? Like, how would you, like, what kind of advice would you give them to first start advocating for that?
I would say definitely do research. I know like when you first hear about a problem, it's very like really want to jump right into it, but it's important to make sure you know everything about the issue so that you can educate people properly and also like form educated opinions about it. And it's definitely good to see if you have anyone around you that's also interested or educated about that opinion, because it's always really good to get different views about it. And then just start small, maybe talk to some people that are close to you about it. And then if you feel like you can go further, definitely do that.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for your presentation. I think like now is probably one of the most vital times, coming right off of a pandemic where people are just in more dire need of assistance in like with various necessities, including food. So I just want to thank you guys so much for taking part in this project as well as presenting for us today. So I just wanted to introduce our next presenter. So our next presenter is Arushi Sharma with her app, which is the Service Spotter app.
Hi guys, so I'm going to be sharing my screen with the presentation. Okay, so to start off, I am talking about Service Spotter. So Service Spotter is an app to connect the homeless and low-income communities with services. So a little bit about our team. Like I mentioned before, my name is Arushi. I was the project lead of the project. I helped develop the original idea, conducted the survey, and created the app and designed the app as well. The other two members were Sammy Thompson and Anna Holm, who helped take notes and analyze the data results from the survey. So how did Service Spotter form? So to start off, I had volunteered at various homeless breakfasts, and when I was volunteering, I had learned that there was a lack of awareness of the available community resources, such as like clothing drives or shelters. And so going off of that, I did a survey in 2020 with my team to learn that there was an inadequate awareness of different services, and it also reflected the inability to connect with the service providers. And so with that, I also talked to service providers, and they felt the same way, as well as they stated that there was a critical shortage of volunteers, especially during 2020 with the pandemic and everything like that. So with that, I decided to build Service Spotters. So our mission of the app is a free iOS mobile app to assist the homeless and low-income communities to connect with services for food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare. What Service Spotter does, we have a 3-step mission. So the first step is find. So it tells you the different details of service providers, such as the hours, the contact details, the addresses. The next step is to connect. So it connects the users to directions for the service providers with a map. It also has crisis helplines that you can contact and an interactive chatbot. Next, it also connects volunteers with service providers so that they can assist in their services to help out in any way that they can. And finally, it also connects with the service providers to promote their services on the app and enhance connectivity with the users. And finally, the last step is assist. So it helps assist the local city, community volunteers, and service providers. So how you can access Service Spotter, it's a free iOS app on the Apple App Store. If you scan this QR code here or you search up Service Spotter on the Apple App Store, it'll pop up. And it was developed after over a year in effort with over 8,000 lines of code. There is also a website if you would like to check that out, and there is a video that has made on there as well as other additional information. So who can access Service Spotter? Service Spotter is for the homeless and low-income communities. It is also for local service providers who can support these low-income and homeless communities, also for community volunteers who can assist by volunteering, and for local city departments that can access and help the users to access these services through the app. There is also a sign up and login feature where you can save your details, but if you would not like to do that, you can also act as a guest. So how does service spotter work? We have different categories. So first we have a menu which shows to the right, which has the categories, explore for directions, service directions, helplines, adding a service, volunteering, ask the forum, and a chatbot. So the categories of the services, as mentioned before, are food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare. So if you search up the categories, to the left, you can see this will pop up, and then you can choose what you would like to look at. And then to the right, it'll show you a list of all the different services. Once you press on the one that you would like to look at and like to potentially use, it'll show you the phone number, the hours, the services offered, the link to the website. You can also like and comment on it, so that way you can come back to it in the future or share your experience. And for volunteers, they can press the volunteer button to get in contact with service providers. And there's over 60 service providers in Austin currently on the app. Next, there's also a map. So under the Explore tab, there is a map that shows your current location as well as the services that are closest to you. So as you can see over here in the middle, if it says where you are, and then it says the services closest to you. And then as you zoom in further, you're able to see the phone number, the addresses, and the websites for what service they provide for the user. One of the most important things to me while I was surveying my community was that I learned that there was a lack of awareness of this helpline. So in the city of Austin, they have created a helpline for the homeless and low-income communities, so that way they can get access to resources and talk to anyone for something that they would need. And so on the app, there is a helpline tab, which they have access to that specific city of Austin homeless helpline, as well as other helplines like suicide prevention, youth runaway, and human trafficking. Next, we also have a personalized chatbot called Spotty. And so you can ask Spotty different questions, such as what's a specific organization. So let's say you would like to see something about Feeding Texas, which helps feed homeless breakfast, and you would like to know what they're serving. Spotty can help you find that. You can also ask them for hours, addresses, and any other information or questions that you might need, and Spotty will help you answer that. If he is unable to, he will get in contact with one of our people on our team, and we will help you answer that in 2 to 3 business days. We also have the Ask the Forum app, because obviously this is a community that we still need to continue helping them and assisting them. And so if they have any questions, we like to be there for them. So the Ask the Forum helps with that. Also, like I mentioned before, volunteers are able to use this app by getting in contact with the service providers. So they would just have to fill out this form, and someone will contact them with either one of the service providers or one of us with more details. There's also missing services. Currently, there is only 60 services involved, but we would like to continue adding more. And if there is a user or a volunteer or some service provider that would like to have their service on the app, aside from what we're putting on there each day, they can fill out this form, and we'll make it a priority to get that on there as soon as possible. So after publishing the app a few months ago, the app has already gotten downloads by over 1,000 users, and over 6,000 locations have been accessed. There have also been positive ratings on the Apple App Store, and also going into the community, sharing with them app that has been all positive results, and it's been really awesome to share it with them. I also, as a high school student, I would like to try to get this out more. So I was working with the city of Austin, and so I did a presentation with them earlier last month and talked to them about how I can utilize their services to continue spreading the awareness of this app, also getting in more response from them, and try to make this app even better in the future. So going off of that, I'm working with the city of Austin right now as a volunteer to help promote the app and share the app with relevant city departments, service providers, and the community, and also circulate it in the local media. I also want to provide suggestions to improve, to modify the app based on suggestions from the city of Austin staff, and provide technological solutions to support the city initiatives to address homelessness and any other community initiative. So for future plans, in the future, I would like to assist in making this feature called providing details for specific programs. So for example, if there was a homeless breakfast that was having some sort of community event, there could be like a notification blast that could go out to all the users to say, we have this event coming at this time, or having other specific details like the number of beds at a shelter that are currently available. As well as I would like to continue to add more service categories. So currently there are only 4 categories for food, clothing, healthcare, and shelter. In the future, and I'm currently working on adding them right now, is also jobs, affordable housing, rehab centers, libraries, worship, free showers, and free Wi-Fi and bathrooms, just because those are additional services that are essential. Currently, Service Water only has 60 service providers based in Austin. I would like to expand to San Antonio, Texas, Dallas, Texas, and the entire Texas state as time goes on. Also, currently the app is only on Google Play and Android. I would like to make it, only on Apple Store. I would like to make it on Google Play and Android. Currently working on that right now, and also add it on a website. That is all I have for you. Feel free to either type in the chat, or if you have any questions, and either contact me with the email up here. But yeah, if anyone would like to unmute or type in the chat for any questions, feel free to do so. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I have a question. Obviously you've done a lot, but I was wondering what the hardest part of creating this app and then sharing it, like everything, what was the hardest part of it all?
I think for me, the hardest part was trying to get this out to everybody, I guess, because right now the app, as a high school student, I don't have as many resources to be to tell other people to use this app. And so working with City of Austin, getting in contact with them was one of the hardest parts. But right now, currently working with them, it's definitely made it easier to use local media, to use their resources, as the homeless strategy department of the City of Austin currently work with other service providers. So they already have those contact builds. So while I can send an email, they're more likely to respond to an email from the City of Austin. So I would say the hardest part was just kind of trying to get the awareness of this app out there, and trying to contact the service providers to help spread the awareness of the app once it was existing.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat from Phelan Wang. You kind of briefly touched on this already, but she's asking, how do you plan to market this further to unhoused communities?
Currently, I think the most important thing I've been doing is actually going out physically in the community myself and talking to them. While I know that doesn't provide for every single person, because as one or two, and me and my team as 3 people, it's very difficult to just go out there and talk to every single homeless individual in the City of Austin. But it's making flyers and giving them to those, or using local media. And so getting published in the City of Austin's different media sources, like newspapers or television sources, and saying this exists for you guys. We hope you guys can use it. It's free. It's on the App Store. Even giving them a link or a QR code, using those resources to help spread awareness of the app and kind of spread it further to them, so they know that it exists.
So I think it's pretty obvious that this is a very big project, and that I'm sure it took a lot of time. So I'm curious, what was your motivation? Because sticking through a project that this long seems it's very difficult for a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure most people, myself included, could not do it. So I'm just what motivated you to stick it out to the end?
For me, it was honestly just I enjoyed volunteering, and so I've been volunteering at the homeless breakfast since 9th grade. And so I had a conversation with a few people, and I had learned that they didn't know that there was a clothing drive down the street, and they didn't have these a coat for the winter. And when I was talking to them, I realized that I felt I was given, I was able to have all these things, and people obviously weren't able to. And so there are services out there that can help provide for them. And so I just felt that connection just needed to be established, because the service providers in Austin are doing amazing work, whether it's either holding clothing drives, holding free homeless breakfast. But it's that connection of getting that information out to these homeless individuals or low income individuals. That connection was not there. And so that inspired me to go out there and physically make it myself, because I really wanted to help these people in any way that I could. And while I know that homelessness is such a big issue and it can't be solved by just one app, even just one connection being built, or them getting even the smallest help needed, I'm sure that makes a difference in their life. And watching them be really happy that someone was able to do that, and being them going and using those resources, that definitely made it all worth it for me in the end.
Are there any other questions from anyone? I guess not. So thank you so much, Arushi, for presenting a new project. I've actually never thought of this idea at all, never crossed my mind. And the fact that you actually came up with this both and put it into action is really inspiring. Like I'm the same age as you, and even like I could not imagine myself doing something like nearly as impactful as this. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
And in the chat, no, this was a project that I had worked on my own, and so it's separate from the APACCO internship that I had done.
So are there any other questions before we have closing remarks? Okay, I guess not. So we're about to have a break in 2 minutes from 10:20 to 10:30. So I just wanted to briefly share my screen just to show like, so our first session is coming to a close. We just had Arushi present hers project. So the next section, the next session, session B, will be about the programs and organizations themselves. So chances are you're going to have to join a different room based on your organization. So Maggie, if you could send this link in the chat. But pretty much you guys, after you come back from your break, make sure to join the virtual room that corresponds with your organization. Like if you're part of Dear Asian Youth, for example, join virtual room 2, or UCA-IL, join a virtual room 1 and whatnot. So just make sure you guys do that because chances are you're not gonna actually you're not gonna remain in this room for the next portion of this showcase. So any questions about that? Okay, I guess not. So I will, for those of you who will be in virtual room 3, I will see you guys at 10:30. And for the rest of you, just feel free to hop off and jump into your next room at 10:30. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.